Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Playbook of the Wealthy. My name is Dave Grant. My co-host is Heather Townsend. And today we are talking about how to design your retirement income, either when you're retiring or if you're going into financial freedom. We are a financial services podcast, also a really entertaining podcast. So because we're going to entertain you, that means that you have to pause the show. You have to like it, subscribe it, follow it, comment, share it with a friend. I think that's it. If you do one of those things, we love you. If you do one or more, then
we love you
we
more.
Still love you. There you go. Because we're a financial services podcast, we do have a disclaimer. There's a gentleman named Jordan. You're going to hear him right now.
All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
Our podcast is split up into 4 sections. There is a section that we constantly rename. Today it's called What's New. You heard it a couple episodes called You Good. You've heard it for the first 10 episodes called How You Doing. We have no idea what to call this segment, so we're going to play with it and figure out new things. Then we dive deep into content, we answer questions, and then you get to know us personally as we update you on our personal lives. So, Heather, what's new?
I am deep in the throes of tax loss harvesting and realizing that, custodians, aka Schwab, their iRebal software, no one knows what I'm probably talking about, but it's this trading software that is given to financial advisors. I feel like it's 3 iterations behind, right? Like all the new software is out there for another subscription fee. And I think I just realized I'm like, they are behind and I definitely need new software. And I'm like manually doing tax loss harvesting in spreadsheets. Probably that's a little bit of me.
Ew.
I know, but it's also the control aspect, right? Like the market is moving a lot. So you have to trade really fast and technology is not always perfect. Let's face it. So that's what's new. It's just, I love that. I think I love this part of the job is that it's very dynamic. Depending on what's going on in the world, our hats can change and we're in a different opportunity. You're probably doing a lot of Roth conversions right now, I'd imagine, right? It's just as the market changes, new opportunities present itself. So right now I'm in tax loss harvesting phase, which is very different than there were no opportunities last year when the market was up like 20+%, right? So it's just interesting. It keeps you definitely on your toes.
It definitely is a job that changes day by day.
Yeah.
So you have to ask me now just so we can cement the name of the segment.
What's new, buddy?
That sounds like a threat now. I'm getting to the part of the year where I can breathe. The first 4 months, it's almost like, okay, we're just going to run and try and keep up with taxes and reviews of clients from last year. And the start of the year is people reaching out for help. Tax season is people reaching out for help. And now we're getting into, okay, let's kind of breathe and kind of reassess where we're at, do some more proactive planning work for people now that we're not scrambling to file taxes and all of that. So it's a nice place to be in. I enjoy this part of the year because it's almost like a period of 4 to 5 months where I get to do a lot of working on my business versus in my business. So it's a fun transition.
And I feel like deep thinking, like this is when, I read up on current changes or I don't know, some things that are like deep planning projects that I need to do for clients. I normally it has to be after tax season because I need the space. I need the brain capacity, which I just don't have, like you said, in Q1 of the year. So I agree.
Nice. All right, let's dive in. So before we begin, I like to talk about this as retirement income planning, to which you give me the slap through the computer screen because you don't like the words I use. So explain that first.
I think retirement just doesn't have a good view of it. I think financial freedom is a lot sexier and more exciting. Like you have enough money that you get to just live and not have to work anymore. Like that's incredible. And I think we've talked about it in previous episodes, but retirement, it's hard, right? You really have to think about, okay, you used to have this job that you went to every day, and now you don't have that anymore. What are you going to replace it with? And how are you going to make this next phase of your life enjoyable? You know what else is interesting too? I do have some clients that are in financial freedom, but they're still continuing to work, right? So I just like the definition of financial freedom. You don't have to work and you can live off your portfolio. That's what it means to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So as we go through this podcast, I'm still going to use the word retirement. Don't get angry.
I won't. I use it. I use the word. But
okay, so let's talk about it then.
Okay, I do want to talk about it, but really quick, what I think it's people can't even fathom. Wait, you have enough money, but then what? How do you actually live off of the money that you've spent years and years and years saving for? And there is big time strategy behind it, isn't there, Dave?
Yes, Heather, there is. This is my wheelhouse. I'm here for 4 hours, whether you people want it or not. I'm here. So typically when I'm starting to design it for clients is you want to understand where they're at in their kind of life phase as it relates to money. And so if we're talking about income, because that's the lens we're looking at it through, there's going to be various income streams that you get. One being Social Security, which everyone pays into throughout their whole career. And the other is going to be their portfolio. So that's typically where the streams of income are coming from. So if I'm designing income, I'm looking at it in the pre-Social Security age, where there's no income at this point. You finish working, there's nothing else. Like it's your portfolio, real estate if you've got that, or nothing. So it's that pre-Social Security, which gives you a lot of wiggle room in terms of how you pull money from your assets, how you design where you get the income from, and how you play with tax brackets. Because as soon as you start hitting Social Security, or if you start to get a pension from work, now you're in a minimal tax bracket you can never get away from. You can't defer Social Security, past 70. You can't defer a pension past its starting age. Those are just going to come to you year after year, and you're in a minimal tax bracket, and now your hands are tied somewhat. And then once you go through, okay, now I'm at 73. For many people, it's going to get a little older, but okay, now my RMDs are coming out, my required minimum distributions from my tax deferred retirement accounts. Again, you can't get away from that. That's going to happen. And then you're kind of handcuffed again into, okay, I've got those coming out. Now I'm a little less flexible on where my income's coming from.
Well, and to just add, it's first of all, like there's many things that go into this. First, I like tax diversification. Like clients that just have 100% in traditional IRAs, let's say, or pre-tax 401ks. Oh boy, like you're just all stuck in this ordinary income bucket. And, I really, really like tax diversification, which is you have some money in pre-tax. So we do have to kind of worry about ordinary income there, and RMDs, Roth, no RMDs, no taxes, and then brokerage, just long-term capital gains. And then if we have icing on top, maybe some HSA money. But then you can really, really play around with the tax code and kind of pick what tax bracket you want to be in, which I think is so fun. And my question for you is, Dave, what tax bracket do you normally target for your clients? Like, where do you not want to go above?
Yeah. Well, the straight off answer is the 24% bracket. I don't like going above that.
Me neither.
Reason being is the 24% tax bracket is really big. So there's a lot of wiggle room of being in that 24% bracket and getting a lot of income in your hands without going above that bracket. There are some people that don't want to go above 12. I'm like, that's tough. We can try it, but we're going to have to do some real fancy planning there. But once you get into 22 and 24.
12, I mean, I get it, but also what people don't realize right now is we are in historically low tax brackets if you look at the history of the US right now. So 12, I'm like, what? Like, no, go to the 22, 24 because, once you jump from the 24, it's a huge jump to 32. It's an 8% difference. That's massive. But I don't find 22 or 24 when you look at the history of tax brackets in the US very high. It's like interest rates, right? Everyone freaks out about a 5% interest rate. You look out 40 years, that's actually still kind of low. The average is what, 5 to 7? I mean, I have to go back and look, but that's normal. 2 to 3 was not normal.
Yeah. So one other thing I'm looking at with retirement income is, okay, we can design it with tax brackets, but we also got to look at what is retirement going to be? Because we can play with this all day and make it a perfect design, but if it doesn't fit the life you want to live, then it doesn't work. So typically what I'm seeing we'll talk about traditional retirement. So I'm seeing the 3 stages of retirement, and they're nicknamed. So you've got the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go. I mean, for people who are like, what on earth are you guys talking about? So when you retire, typically when you hit retirement, you've got a bucket list. You have a lot of time that you're going to do a lot of stuff with. So that's when I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm filling up my time with things. It could be expensive because I'm traveling places. I've got some expensive hobbies. I want to do this, this, and this. And you're healthy. So that's why you're going consistently. That can last, let's say you retire at 65. We'll talk traditional numbers. That could last until 75, for example. That's when health starts to slip. You start to slow down, hence the term the slow go era. And that lasts for another 10 years or so. So then at 75 to 85, you're still doing things. You're just doing it a little slower. Or you may have kind of done everything in your bucket list. You don't need to spend as much money anymore. So you're slowing down, but you're also slowing down your spending. And then once you hit 85 plus, hopefully this changes for a lot of people, but it becomes the no-go. Like you're not really doing much. You may need to transition your living into an assisted living facility. It can get more expensive lifestyle-wise, but you're really not doing much physically. Your spending may go up, but you're not really spending on things that you want to. It's the things that you have to. All right, Let's talk about my favorite topic, buckets.
Okay, can we before we go into this, I find this so funny about you. So explain the designation, and your personality just cracks me up. Like I make all the mistakes of keeping the credentials and then having to do all this continued education. You pay the money, learn the designation, and then go, nope, I don't want the credential. I don't want to keep paying you every year. But what is the credential? Explain, because I think it's great.
So there's a designation called the Retirement Income Certified Professional, I think. You learn about every which way to create income strategies in retirement. Some of them I've used a lot. Some of them I've forgotten from when I've learned it. But yeah, it was 3 classes. It probably took me, 9 months, 8 to 9 months to do the course. I did the first 2, got all the way through the 3rd class. I'm like, why would I take the exam? I don't want the designation. No one cares. They just want me to know. They want to know that I have the knowledge. And so I tell them I have the knowledge. But yeah, I'm not doing CEs on this. No one cares. And so I downloaded the textbooks, keep them, reference them, and use it.
So funny. Okay. The buckets. The first bucket is cash. And we put 1 to 2 years. You might do 3. You do 3. Most of my clients are 2. 1 to 2 years of their entire year of living expenses in cash. Then we go somewhere between 3 to 7 years in fixed income. So clients can have somewhere between 4 to 7 years in cash and fixed income bonds of their living expenses. So if the market corrects, there's a recession, a downturn, you name it, we're not selling depressed equities or stock. And that greatly helps the retirement probability of success. I keep using that word retirement again for our clients. It also gives, I know for me and my clients, it gives me such a peace of mind that I have different levers to pull, right? Based on what's going on in the stock market. And then the rest of the portfolio based on those buckets. So 0 to 3 years in cash, 4 to 7 years in fixed income. The remaining is all in a diversified equity portfolio. Because of that, at least I can talk for my clients really aren't in the typical 60-40 retirement portfolio. They just don't need to be. Many of them are 70-30, maybe 80-20, of course, due to their portfolio size, but they really do have those buckets of living expenses. And it allows them to have a higher withdrawal rate than the standard 4%, which we can talk about. It improves their retirement probability of success. It's just wonderful. I love this approach so much. Dave?
Yes. So buckets is pretty much for people who are living on their portfolio solely. Like if you don't have any other income, this is where it becomes really important. It doesn't become as essential for people who have a lot of living needs met by Social Security and a pension. So if you've got that, say you need 100,000 to live on and you've got 70,000 coming from a pension and Social Security, you don't need much in cash. Like if you wanted 2 years of an excess, you've got 60 grand. The rest, you can just...
I do a cash flow and I put in their pension, Social Security, whatever. And it's whatever the difference is that needs to be covered by the portfolio that I determine the buckets. I'm sure you do the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just becomes a lot more management if this is your only income source, is your portfolio. And that's where it becomes really important because you cannot afford to go through a major downturn and lose a lot of your portfolio and need it in the short term when you're retired.
Do you know where I saw the buckets work out beautifully is 2022. 2022, to go back, was when inflation was very top of mind. The stock market was reacting. I think at one point it was almost down 27%. Seriously. But people forget that. But at that time, I was having clients live off cash. And then I remember 2023, retirement probability of success stayed pretty consistent and high with the buckets, with utilizing the buckets. It was really beautiful to see. I loved it.
Yeah, the pushback I get from people when I start talking about this is they will then bring up withdrawal rates. They're like, well, why can't I just live on 4 to 5% of my portfolio and that's it? Like, it's just simple math. Why am I going to go through all this huge design? And when they say, why am I going to go through the design? They mean me. But they just want that simple of, I have $1 million. That means I can live off 40 to 50 grand. It's easy, simple. It's not.
No, it's way more complicated than that. Also, let's talk about putting picking if you have different types of accounts, Roth, pre-tax, like traditional IRA, brokerage, maybe HSA, where are you pulling from to not have the tax gotchas, which if we have time, we'll talk about, right? And when you're putting together a portfolio, I know you do the same thing, but I'm very strategic about what asset class I put in what accounts based on how they're taxed and in the long plan, because taxes is one of our biggest expenses for our retiree financial freedom clients.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah. And what tax bill you generate for people is going to have a lot of knock-on effects. One thing that I know that we both do, and it's called guardrails. So when we're talking about withdrawal rate, it kind of goes hand in hand with guardrails and figuring out, okay, what are the, if my portfolio grows, can I live off more money is where this question goes to. And the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. And we both have software that kind of leads us into this conversation with clients of saying, okay, if my portfolio goes from 1 million to 1.25, 1.5, how much can my income increase without me, getting too far ahead of my skis here? Like, what can I do? And this is what guardrails are. They're essentially saying, if my portfolio goes up by X, this is how much my extra income I can take. The reverse, if my portfolio goes down, this is how much I have to reduce my spending by. And so we take that into each client conversation with people in financial freedom, and we say, okay, here's how your buckets are situated.
Wait. Excuse me. What term did you just use, Dave? Did you just use a term? I'm sorry. I'm so happy right now. Okay.
Shut up. We go into conversations with our retired clients and we then say, Okay, based on how your buckets are set up and based on how your portfolio has grown or decreased, this is what your spending may need to adjust by going into next year and the year after. So there's withdrawal rate is very much the bottom layer of this whole conversation. It goes way deeper than that, and it's a lot more complex. So if someone, in a forum somewhere says, "Oh, you're retired, just live off 4% of your portfolio," you can ignore that.
I really quickly want to touch on a few things if you are in retirement, financial freedom. One of them is Medicare, right? 2-year look back, I think, Dave, right? So for this year, for 2025 Medicare premiums, they're looking at your 2023 tax return. And if you make over a certain amount, your Medicare, your income, if it's over a certain amount, your Medicare premiums start going up. And so for 2025, it's 106 if you made over 106 if you're filing single, or if you made over 212 married filing joint. So that's one where you really, if I can avoid kind of going over that, I want to try. Capital gains, right? That one's an interesting one. It's like you can even be in the 0% capital gains, which is crazy if you make under.
Can I stop you on IRMA right there? So we were talking about IRMA. That's the look back. Do you really try and stop your clients from going through those brackets and having their Medicare premiums? I'll give you the controversial take. I don't care. I am not letting this impact my planning. Not really at all. Well, because it changes every single year. So if we do some aggressive planning and pump up that tax bracket, yes, you'll pay for it in Medicare premiums 2 years from now, but then we can back off and then your premiums go back down. But we could have done so much good stuff otherwise in that 1 year, and you pay, extra premiums that year.
I think
it's a consideration.
Yes.
But no.
It depends. It's, as always, it depends. One client of mine, they got into the IRMA tax bracket based on 1 year alone, just because it was an outsized taxable event we had. And I basically put the form into the IRS and was like, nope, they're now retired. This doesn't count. And then they reversed it because they're probably not going to be in it in any future years. So I wanted it reversed because that was sizable to them for a whole year to unnecessarily pay. There are some clients that I have, many of them, there's no way we can't get out of it. Their portfolio is high enough and they live off of more than that. There's just nothing I can do. It just is what it is. But I think it's important to note in that case that one client had that taxable event that was a 1 year thing, and I could have I got it reversed. I think that's important. Yeah.
I agree. I think in those situations where it is, you can appeal it. Yes, that's a nice win right there. But I'm not going to let the fact that your premiums might change by $100 a month to affect what I'm doing planning wise. It's just a consequence of doing some cool things.
This is where you and I differ very much. I'm like, well, okay, so this has this happened, but maybe if I do this, I do get into the weeds sometimes. I just do. I'm Miss Spreadsheet lady over here. Capital gains. I don't really, this has already been a pretty dense episode, but just basically, if you make under a certain amount, you could be in 0% taxable gains, capital gains. It's like under 96,000 for married filing joint and 48 for single. Most people are in the 15% bracket though. Most of my clients. So, okay. Dave, let's see. Why don't you grade me on this summary? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to use Dave. I'm going to use Dave's language. It is way more complicated than just living off the 4% withdrawal rate. 1, tax diversification. 2, asset location for taxes, tax strategy, no, that's not the word I'm trying to say. When you try to make things way better, it's not strategy, the word I'm trying to use. You don't know what word I'm trying to use.
I'm feeling these bullets fall apart here.
I know. Tax optimization. Okay, that was the better word.
Okay.
Buckets. so that when the market goes down, it's not if, it's when, you are not selling depressed securities, and also controlling what tax bracket you're in, and guardrails. What did I miss? How did I do? You want to give me a C minus?
I'm gonna give you a B.
Okay, fine. I'll take the B.
Yeah. We'll take it and move on. All right, we're moving into our next segment. It's called What Would You Do? This is a segment where we have questions we throw at each other and we give our best answer. So I'm going to read the first one, and you're going to give the best answer that you've ever given to a question on this podcast.
No pressure.
Ready? All right. My wife and I are 63 and will be retiring this year. We'll delay our Social Security until age 70 when the annual benefit is going to be $80,000. Our expenses total $120,000. Our portfolio is $2 million spread between various retirement and non-retirement accounts. How do we cover our costs before age 70?
You got to live off your portfolio. First, I want to start with, though, which we didn't touch on. Awesome on delaying Social Security until age 70. You and I didn't touch on that. I think I have many of my clients doing that unless they don't think they're going to live beyond low 80s, right? That's about the break even, high level. And why? Because at full retirement age, if you delay taking Social Security, your benefit increases 8% every year. And I want to lock in the highest Social Security payment in retirement. When I run my calculations, it always greatly increases my client's retirement probability of success if I delay till 70. So awesome. So if you're 63, for the next 7 years, you're going to live off of that 2 million portfolio. Dave, can you do the math? What is 80? Okay, so their withdrawal rate's going to be higher than 4%, though.
I think it's going to be high starting off, but then it's going to go down to
40.
40,000. I mean, it's not going to be 2 million anymore. It might be a little less if they're withdrawing heavily, but now they don't need as much anymore. So I think just on the face of it, they'd be okay. But yes, you're living off the portfolio until Social Security kicks in. There's really no other option unless you go back and get a job.
I need to run it, make sure they're okay, see what the retirement probability of success is doing that. But they're probably going to be okay. Question 2. My portfolio is lopsided towards my retirement accounts, 2.5 million in my IRAs and 200,000 in my brokerage. I don't have any other retirement income sources except a small Social Security benefit. I only need an extra 20,000 yearly to cover my expenses, and I want to preserve as much as possible for inheritance purposes. How do I go about this?
This is interesting because I don't think this is an income question. This is more an inheritance question. So let me kind of take you through my thought process there. So if we're looking at $20,000 a year, even if you left the IRA alone, you've got 10 years in the brokerage before you need to touch an IRA. Is that the way I do it? Absolutely not. If you're thinking about inheritance, that $200,000 in the brokerage, you're going to get what's called a step up in basis when you pass away. So the person inheriting that, let's say it goes to $400,000. When you pass away, if they inherit that account, it's though they bought $400,000 of securities that day, and there's no tax consequence for them. The IRA is different because everything you pull out on IRA is going to be taxable income. So even though you only need $20,000 a year, I'd be pulling $20,000 net. So take your taxes on top of that from your IRA and live on that. But I'd also be taking more. Because if you can start taking more and still be in a low tax bracket, you're making that better for your heirs when they inherit it, because now you can just put that in the brokerage account. So look at your tax brackets, figure out which is going to be comfortable for you. I would take it up to the top of the 24%, as we mentioned before, and just do that year after year. If you don't do it, your RMD is going to get you in trouble later on.
Well, I mean,
you're required to take the money out.
I can already say, because I have clients in RMD age, with $2.5 million, your RMD is way higher than $20,000 a year.
What's that, pushing 100, 120 to start?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, high level, it's like 100, maybe 120. I mean, depending on age, we don't know their age, right? Because it changes for their age. But yeah, I mean, if they're under, I mean, I do this with some clients in retirement is even if we're not an RMD age, I pull some from their IRAs because I don't want them to get into that RMD situation where we're forced to take out a higher amount than we want to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this done well, this is going to be a great inheritance for the heirs as well as covering the income. If not done well, it's a big tax hit.
And you know what I'm also thinking? If this was my client, I would ask them, who's inheriting this and what do you think their tax bracket is? Because I mean, and we don't know this person's age, but depending on what tax bracket, if the person inheriting the money or people are in a much higher tax bracket, do you consider Roth conversions? Do you gift some of it now? I don't know. This is a fun one. Lots to talk about. Very dynamic. Very dynamic. Good question.
All right, we're going to move into highlights. This is where you get to know about us personally and one of our wins or top things that's going on in our week. I'm going to start because I have so many clients asking me about this and emailing me asking for updates, and it's about our house purchase. Chicago and the Chicago suburbs are freaking ridiculous right now. You cannot buy a house unless you know of it off market, and if it hits the market, you'd be like, what's wrong with that house? And that's not how the housing game usually works. So 2 weeks ago, we came off spring break, and then the evening we came off spring break, a really nice house came on. It was our ideal house. We got into it the next day. We were already told there was 2 offers on it. It went on the market at 8 on a Friday night. We went in on I think we went on a Saturday, maybe a Sunday. We wrote a very aggressive offer. We went $45,000 over asking price. That's just under, well, it wasn't 10%, probably like 7% over asking. We were told within half an hour, no, it's not going to cut it. And we were like, oh, okay. Well, I'm not paying more for that. Like, I like the house. I'm not crazy. So that's when we looked at each other and we're like, what are we doing? Like, this is a crazy housing market. And so we pulled out the sale of our house. We are living in our house now. We're not moving. We're going to wait another year and see if this craziness comes down.
It's so fascinating to me how, I think we touched on this again in a previous podcast episode, but your market is completely the opposite of what's going on in the Scottsdale area right now. We have the most listings. This is the last I knew. I'm not a realtor, but the most listings in a very long time. Things are not moving. There's hardly any activity in open houses. It's very fascinating. And I think you and I talked about this previously. You made a great point, was that, you didn't have any COVID bubble, right? In your area, like we did. I mean, during COVID here, it went crazy.
Yeah. We did not have as big of we had an ish bubble, but it wasn't like you guys. Yeah. Like I had clients buying out there and their house price went from like 400 to 600 in the space of a year and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're playing a little bit of catch up.
It's interesting.
What about you?
Well, so it was my husband's birthday last weekend. And, some of the people that I really follow and admire, one of their greatest advice is like, your spouse is one of the most important financial decisions you're going to make, right? Divorce is very costly. So many other things that go into it. And I just had this day with my husband where I was like, man, I chose well. And I know I'm not, but I just had a day. So my husband on his birthday, you won't believe what he wanted to do. He wanted to go do something fun with the girls. And he planned it. He wouldn't let me plan his birthday, which normally I always plan his birthday. I go crazy, whatever. He took the girls to Legoland. That's what we did. We went to Legoland for his birthday. And it was really fun to watch them. But like, that's what lit up my husband. Like, he was just so happy. And then of course we went to a fancy schmancy dinner with the girls and all of that. But the fact that he wanted to take them to Legoland for his birthday was like, one of those decisions of, picking your spouse is also like, if you want kids, how good of a father are they going to be? And I was like, Okay. I'm going to take a win highlight.
It is
That's my
true.
highlight. It was like I just took a moment and I was really grateful that, you never know when you marry. I know it's a weird thing to say, but my maid of honor gave me like a great piece of advice. She's like, it's a leap of faith, and it really is. But I'm really glad my leap of faith is working out so well right now.
Wow. Make sure he listens to this, because men don't get many compliments.
What?
That's just a fact of being a man. Men do not get many compliments. Not ever. So,
wait, that's a
make
thing.
sure he
I did
hears
not
this.
know that. I did not know that.
I remember compliments I got 20 years ago. Yeah. We rarely get compliments. It can be surface level compliments from guys. That's fine. So they're like, yeah, that was a great golf shot. I'm like,
Oh,
thanks. I kind of knew
I
that.
mean, you guys
But if it's a
don't
real
normally-
compliment,
Yeah, you guys don't really talk about like deep stuff, right?
but we also don't get it from other people.
Oh.
So make sure he listens to that. Give him the props for being a good dad. He'll remember that for a long time.
Okay. I will. Thank you, Dave. By the way, just to add to it, everyone, I want everyone to just hear this. This is a great closing. Dave does all our editing on our podcast. And so I want to give you a compliment right now, Dave, that you do a really amazing job with the editing. I think it's incredible that you do it all by yourself.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. All right, compliment back. You don't BS and you have a thick skin. You take feedback very well.
Yeah, that's
so that makes you a great podcast host.
Look at this. This is going to be all live and we just like poured our hearts out. Okay.
Yeah, just watch me cut it because it's too long. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. You can find us on whichever platform you listen to podcasts, and the video version of the show is on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram, whenever Heather decides to post on Instagram. If you want to send an email to the show, you can contact us at hello@playbookotw.com, and we'll see you next time.